Hey, in the late 1970s, these started appearing on newsstand racks. And it's the superhero catalog of games, books, toys, and puzzles. And I picked this up. And it was put together by Joe Kubert's art school, the students there. So if you look through it, it has ads for all the toys, the Mego. Well, today people call them Mego action figures, but in all honesty, back in the 70s, they were called Mego dolls. And that's something people don't tell you. But somewhere in here, and let's see if I can't find it, here's an ad for all the Marvel Treasury editions. The one that, do they have it? No, they don't. Oh yes, they do. This one here is the one that really got me into Marvel Comics. Number 2, the issue that reprinted the Galactus trilogy, the DC Treasury. Ah, here it is. This book here I ordered from either this catalog or the one after it. Comics by Les Daniels. It was $7.95. It says, tells you how the comic book industry came to be and where it is going. Only $7.95. So that was one of the best investments I'd ever made. That book by Les Daniels just changed my life. Now, before I show you that, let me show you the complete run. I don't know if it's the complete run, but this was the second issue. So I picked that up too. And, you know, it was Heroes World, which was a big comic store, I think in New Jersey. I don't know if they're still around. I don't think they are. So they just kept putting out issues, and I've seen other people do retrospectives of this. But, you know, because I ordered that from them, I kept getting issues, I think, past what most people are even aware that, you know, they kept publishing. So, because this one I don't see very often. And this was mailed to me. It has the address label on the back with my childhood home, and so that's the complete run, at least my run, of these Heroes World catalogs that came out in the late 70s. And this is the book, Comics, History of Comic Books in America. Now, the illustration isn't quite what you would expect. It looks like a Golden Age hero, but one that never existed. The thing about it that was so great, one of the things that was so great about this book, the author is a great writer, but the graphics were done by Madpeck Studios. And Madpeck was this great underground cartoonist that just did this insane graphic design for this book. Before this, you know, the only real history I knew about comics came from, you know, Stan Lee's Origins of Marvel Comics and all that. But in 1975, I got, it was about 75, 76, probably 75. We were living in Tacoma, Washington. This giant, it's about the size of a Treasury edition book, came into my hands, and it's The History of Comics by Jim Steranko. It has his wonderful artwork, and has the whole history of comics with these great illustrations from Alex Raymond. It starts with the pulps. It has, you know, pictures of pulp covers, and trust me, myself in 5th grade, I pored over this book and read every word and looked at the all the little covers. This is the first drawing of Superman sketch. I mean, it just was great. So this taught me a lot about the golden age of comics. Oh, look at that wonderful, wonderful Bill Everett pen and ink illustration of the Human Torch and the Submariner fighting. There was a second volume That one cost $4. This one cost $6. And this one goes more, well, it goes into the Fawcett, it goes into Captain Marvel, it goes into Black Hawk, Airboy, Plastic Man, Uncle Sam, the Spirit, yeah, reprints the whole Spirit story. So that's what I knew about comics. But then this book falls into my hands that I ordered from that catalog I just showed you, comics. Now this book really is amazing. It goes through and it actually reprints whole stories. Superman, early Superman story. An old Crime Does Not Pay story. It talks about, it goes into a lot of areas of comic book history that the other books don't, like funny animal comics, which was a huge genre. And as it goes through, there's a whole chapter about EC. And as it gets into the EC chapter, that's when I really became fascinated, and it reprints some whole EC stories. A story from Mad, Julius Caesar. It goes into the Comics Code controversy. And this is where I learned a lot about the Comics Code and how it had banned monsters, and then was relaxed in the early 70s. And anyway, as you keep going, it gets into the new comic books, which is a big part. And then what they're doing here is they're talking about the underground comics. And I need to be careful flipping through it because there's some probably inappropriate, there was one, illustrations. A whole chapter on underground comics. And I think when they're talking about the new comics here, they're actually talking about Help and Eerie and Creepy, the mid-60s ground level comics. They didn't follow the Comics Code, so they had more inappropriate stuff, but they weren't extreme like the later underground comics. So there is a color section in the middle that reprints a Batman story, a Submariner story, an EC story, and a Carl Barks Donald Duck story. It even has panels from Not Brand Echh, which is one of my all-time favorite comics. Marie Severin is one of my favorite artists. The story from the Fantastic Four. It gets into Stan Lee and that revolution of comics. But when it gets into the underground comics, it really blows your mind. And the weird thing is, this was in my junior high school library. And so I was able to check this out, carry it around with me to my classes. Later on, I think I was in 9th grade, about 79. I think they pulled it from the library. Someone must have realized some of the inappropriate stuff that was in it. So I would find that book if you want to look around on Amazon, eBay. It shouldn't be too expensive, but it's got a wealth of information, and it's extremely well written, and it just I love the layout of it. I love that Mad Peck artist. You can look him up on the internet. This is a picture of my mom when she was in high school. She was wearing some kind of cowboy hat. She must have been in some kind of drill team or something. This would have been in the early 40s. I show you that because I wanted to show you some of the comics she bought for me when I was a little kid. And I will show you that in the next video, or one of the next videos. When I was homesick, she would go out and usually pick up about 2 or 3 comic books and bring them home to me. So it's because I was sick one day in 74, 75, she brought me home the Hulk issue with the very first appearance of the Wolverine, which is what, 181? The one, which is valuable, but the one that people really prize is the one, the next issue, where he's on the cover, and even though that's not technically his first appearance. I don't own that. If I had just been sick that next month, or maybe if it had, you know, I'd gotten sick again, like a recurring flu or something, if I had just been sick the next month, maybe she would have picked up the issue of the Hulk that would, you know, be an unbelievable value. Even though I don't sell, you know, I'm not looking for key issues. I don't slab stuff. I just want to have what I love. I buy what I like. I always have. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have picked up that issue of the Hulk if I had been in the store. I would have bought something else that's now completely valueless. I was really into the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man at that time, and the Hulk I was kind of lukewarm to. I later, and Thor, I later became really more, especially Thor, got into those characters. But she's the reason I've got that issue of the Hulk, and it's in great condition, and I'll show that to you sometime. I'm just still trying to go through organizing. I just jumped out of the shower, so my hair is wet. I want to jump on before I go to work, and going to work means going down to the living room and opening up my laptop and doing Zoom meetings, because you know, my work is being done from home now. But between certain hours, I'm supposed to be constantly on call, so I can't really goof around during the day and upload videos during the day. So anyway, I'll be back around this evening. Maybe I'll put up another video. I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable talking on camera. It's a little unnerving at first. I hope people enjoy the videos. I'm going to start showing off as I go through and organize the collection. I'll show you. I'll pull things aside that are interesting to me, and I'll show them to you. And I mean, not just comics, but I'll show you records and toys and anything I find interesting. I've got all kinds of stuff around here. But I guess I need to run and eat some breakfast, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.